This is the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. I don't know about you, but I always carry a knife. It doesn't matter what the situation is, I'm always reaching for a blade. Whether I'm out hunting in the backwoods, fishing on lakes and rivers, or simply cutting rope at camp. And when I need a tool, I want something that's quality, durable, and handmade right here in the USA. I know that's something you're looking for as well, so go to maloneknives.com and get yourself something that's going to last and look damn good too. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Hope you had a great hunting season so far. Hope you've been able to get outside a lot, go explore tons of awesome places. We're in December already. Been a wild ride this year. I've had a lot of crazy new experiences going on, which I'll talk about in a later episode. Today, I'm kind of talking about something that I've been thinking about, as if you listened to my episode from about 2 weeks ago. Just kind of thinking about philosophically, I guess, if you want to say it like that, about kind of the way that I'm choosing to live, I guess, my life around things and where those influences came from. I'm not, obviously the best hunter or fisherman in the world. I just really love doing this stuff and being outside, and especially with gun week, I went really, really hard. Spent a lot of time outside, probably as much time during gun week as I have during the whole rest of bow season so far, and I just couldn't make it happen. I mean, that's the reality of it. I've hunted with some guys who are extremely good hunters, did my first ever deer drive. Nothing. It's just not been my year. I've missed a few opportunities, but that's part of the learning process. There's nothing I can do about that. Just get better, learn more, practice more. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Ramble on quite a bit. So I was thinking about this quote this morning, and first off, I want to say I do want to start doing more solo episodes. I really think it gives me an opportunity to just kind of think on a topic and then talk about it. Whereas with a guest, a lot of storytelling, a lot of conservation talk. This allows me to kind of talk about my philosophy, which is based off of a lot of different things. But if you listen to episodes in the past, you've heard me talk about this book, The Last American Man. It's about Eustace Conway. He's really an interesting character. He's a flawed character. He's a real person. He's been on TV and all that stuff. He's been on shows. I never watched them, but his book really changed the way I thought about the outdoors. And it's ultimately what led me to want to hunt and down this rabbit hole of learning more about conservation and the way the world operates. So if you ever get the opportunity to read that book, it's a really well-written book. It's just about his life, essentially. It's a very drastic lifestyle. I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near what Eustace Conway is, but this quote in particular, I think, really shaped the way that I started thinking about hunting and fishing and just the outdoors in general. And then, it's just something that sticks in the back of my mind. I don't have it memorized like it's a quote from the Bible or something. I just think about it often. And I know this is natural for a lot of hunters and fishermen that grew up doing this. This is just how they operate. Summer they fish, winter and fall they hunt, and it just repeats and repeats. But for me, I had to just find this because growing up, winter was a time of sit inside. It's cold. Don't go outside. We don't want to go outside. But now it's actually one of my favorite times of the year. I absolutely love winter. Ice fishing is probably my favorite outdoor activity, to be completely honest with you. And that's when it's the coldest of the year. So I'm going to read this quote really quick just to give a little background. So it says, "I live," Eustace said, "in nature where everything is connected, circular. The seasons are circular. The planet is circular, and so is its passage around the sun. The course of water over the earth is circular, coming down from the sky and circulating through the world to spread life, and then evaporating up again. I live in a circular teepee, and I build my fire in a circle, and when my loved ones visit me, we sit in a circle and talk. The life cycles of plants and animals are circular. I live outside where I can see this. The ancient people understood that our world is a circle, but we, modern people, have lost sight of that. I don't live inside buildings because buildings are dead places where nothing grows, where water doesn't flow, and where life stops. I don't want to live in a dead place. People say that I don't live in the real world, but it's modern Americans who live in a fake world because they've stepped outside the natural circle of life. Really, really love that quote. It's, to me, and it's inherently true. Not to say that Americans live in a fake world. I mean, it was created by humans who are a product of biological evolution. So, I mean, you can argue whatever you want. That matter. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But there's two things that made me think of this. Spend a lot of time outside trying to hunt and fish and stuff, and keyword there, try. And, I'm sitting in the woods a lot, and I've had a lot of instances in the past where I've been looking at my phone or listening to an audiobook or something and just completely blew it with deer. So I don't do that anymore. I check my phone for, every couple, maybe half hour to see what time it is, when hunting time ends and stuff like that. But I also just get to sit out there and just be without anything going on, which gives me time to think about stuff, which is really awesome. One of the better parts of hunting. I've watched the seasons change from fall to now it's going into winter and getting really cold. And I was out hunting in t-shirts. Now I'm dressed fully bundled up in every piece of hunting gear I own so I don't freeze my butt off. And that quote just kind of brings it all together. You get to watch the world change around you. I was outside as the leaves were falling. It's awesome. And another thing is I'm giving this presentation about locally here where I live in the Toledo area to help people understand that you can explore locally. You don't have to travel all over the world to have a good time. You can keep yourself plenty occupied doing stuff wherever you live, not just here specifically. So that's kind of what got me thinking about this. And this is more specific to how the podcast goes. But so basically for me, every year it starts with spring starts rolling around, we'll say, after the new year. We're out there ice fishing through January, February, maybe March, if we're lucky. And then spring start rolling around, everything starts warming up, get into that, t-shirt weather again. So we'll start there. There's so much to do in spring. I mean, lake house, there's lakes start opening up. A lot of boat access becomes more accessible. The river dethaws. All the ice is gone. You can go out there and fish pretty much from sun up to sundown every day. So I try to fish a couple days a week if possible, a few hours. And it's just fun to go out and explore places. There's been, lakes I have access to, public land, public spaces where you can put in a boat and go fish for as long as you want. Learn in new places, different things. Try different places with structure, try places that have no structure, try deep places, try moving water, try still water. You got fly rods, you've got traditional fishing, you got spinning rods, all that stuff. You can go out and there's such a wealth of opportunity to learn about fish, species specific. There's just, style specific. There's so much stuff to do all the time that I don't understand how people can ever say they get bored. So whatever, you go fishing, you start moving into summer. That's real heavy fishing. I'll be out there. Any opportunity I get, any day of the week, someone calls, you want to go fishing? Yes, I want to go fishing. Oh, I would love to go fishing. We'll take the kayaks out. We take boats out. If someone has a boat, I'll go out with them, down for anything. And back to a few weeks ago, you don't have to have the best equipment in the world. I have one fishing rod that is nice, I would say. That's $100 rod. And that's probably the one I use the least because I don't want to break it. I'm always putting myself in precarious situations. If anybody saw the mommy fishing video I made on YouTube, totally ate it, broke my fishing pole. So if I'm doing stuff like that, I'm taking cheap stuff. One of my friends, he dropped $120 fishing rod off the back of his boat into the river. It's just gone. So it's from a practical purpose, I'm not bringing the most expensive equipment. If I'm out on someone's boat, I'll bring my nicer stuff. But just out there catching fish, learning about fish, practicing, trying different lures, learning more about habitat, going to places that don't have the same habitat. That's spring and summer to me. That's like all I can think about, all I do. The kayak rack does not come off my car. It's constantly on there, ready to roll. And then, fall starts rolling around, start gearing up for bow hunting, pull out the bow, shoot a little bit over the summer just to keep accurate. I usually will take out once a week. I'm not a professional bow hunter, if that's even a thing. I'm still not convinced that's a real thing. And, I'll go out my yard right outside this room here. I have a 20-yard range set up with a deer target, and I'll shoot once a week. Sometimes it's more like once a month. It just depends on how much I'm fishing. Go out there and I just shoot and have a good time. I also bought a ball foam target that I hang from a tree in the backyard, and I'll smack it. It'll swing back and forth, and I'll practice shooting at that. That's always a fun activity. I'll sometimes do that when I'm just like working. I work here. This is where I'm always working. So I'll get, you get bored or frustrated with something you're working on. So I'll go outside, I'll shoot a couple arrows, come back in, and, start warming up for deer season. And then deer season rolls around. As soon as that opens up, if I'm not traveling or have a million things going on, out hunting or looking at maps or whatever to try and find places to hunt. Still not the best at that, but that's just like something to do. Go out there, hunt. Bow, you can still fish during that period in fall, spring, end of spring, early fall. A lot of fishing going on still until basically my hands can't take being out in the cold anymore with fishing, which this year was insane. I could still be fishing right now, to be completely honest. So, and then, fall. With fall comes deer hunting. But recently this year, I've gotten some very lucky opportunities on my end to try new things that I would never have tried, which I will go into detail with another episode. I plan on doing another end of the year hunting recap with my good friend James Appleton. So keep your eyes peeled for that once both of our hunting seasons are over, quote unquote, over. I still got plenty of deer hunting time left, so don't count me out just yet. But I got to be able to duck hunt this year for the first time, which I thought was never going to be feasible for me. I never thought that would be an option because all you hear from people when they talk about pretty much any hunting or fishing, less fishing, more so hunting, but we'll say fly fishing. So expensive. It's so expensive. You'll never be able to afford it. You need a duck boat. You need a mud motor. You need blah, blah, blah. Met a friend at a backcountry hunters and angler event. He was into duck hunting. Invited me out. We go duck hunting. I got to go up to a camp with the guys at MUCC. That was my first time ever duck hunting. They had the equipment, and I really fell in love with it. It's just so different from deer hunting. It's a lot more active in that you can talk to people. You have calls, like, obviously with deer hunting you can do antlers and calls and stuff like that. But with duck hunting, you're calling. It's a new skill. You're learning how to call. There's just really a lot of finesse to it, and it's fun for me to learn those kind of things. But the gear wasn't that wild. Honestly, I have had waders for a long time because we take the dock in and out of the water up at the lake. When it's cold, usually we wait way too long to take it out. But yeah, I had waders laying around. They're not the nicest waders. They just exist, and I have them. So I use them. And I got some decoys used off of Facebook, painted them up. It was a huge pain in the ass. But I think when people say something is expensive, they're really saying it's a lot of work if you don't want to buy the expensive equipment. So again, some resourcefulness. It's bullshit. You can totally get into duck hunting for relatively cheap. If you have a shotgun and you have some waders, or you can get some waders for cheap, I literally see them on Amazon for like $50 to $70. You can totally get into it. You're not going to be the most comfortable, obviously, whatever. So I got into duck hunting, bought 20 decoys, hand painted every single one of them, and now I can duck hunt myself. We've gone out in kayaks, we've gone out in boats, we've walked through marshes that were covered in ice, breaking ice, duck hunting, and it's just such a surreal experience to watch the sun come up and just hundreds, if not thousands of ducks fly over your head. It's such a cool experience, and that's what gets me out of bed at the morning. So, doing something like that, upland hunting, first time I've ever got to upland hunt, was a really great experience. Just walking through brush, no camo again, very active thing. I love doing active stuff, and got to experience that. It was a really good time. And again, another thing where people say it's expensive, blah, blah, blah. It's really not. You can have some thick, Carhartt pants or really tough jeans and a game vest, which you can get, again, online for relatively inexpensive. Some orange hat and a shotgun. You're good to go. You're good to go. Again, you go out there. You don't need a $4,000 dog or whatever. It's much more effective and efficient to be able to find the birds if you do that, but you can go kick up birds. So another, myth that I like to dispel, because I've done it. I went out there and did it. It's really good. So fall, prime time. You got spring. I forgot to mention turkey. You got fall turkey. There's a lot going on with that. Turkey hunting, another thing you don't need a ton of money for. Turkey call and a shotgun, some camo. You wander around in the woods. Another activity that's really fun and difficult. And then winter rolls around. You still got hunting all through winter. We got squirrel hunting, which I've completely fallen in love with. It always looks easy when you're sitting in your deer stand and they're just around everywhere. But yesterday I went with those guys. We did not see a squirrel while we were squirrel hunting. After we were squirrel hunting, there were squirrels everywhere. So it's a little more difficult than I thought it would be, but it's fun. I like to roam around. It's a really active activity for me, and I really enjoy that. So, winter, throw a dart. And then you get into the colder months, right back around to the new year again. We're talking January, February. I'm in northern Ohio and southern Michigan border, very close to where I live. So I'm either area. I'm happy to ice fish. We have Lake Erie, which people say it can be dangerous. Don't if you've never ice fished before, don't just run out to Lake Erie and hope for the best. It's a little bit different game than fishing on like a smaller lake or something. I personally don't fish on rivers. I'm not going to say I never do for ice fishing, that I never will, because I've said that by a lot of things, fly fishing and such. I said I'd never do it. Here I am. It's definitely not something that I'm going to attempt here locally because it's just so dangerous. The risk to reward ratio for me is not there. But ice fishing, I don't know why I like it so much. I think it's just kind of like exploring the unknown. It's just this big sheet of ice, and do your research. I was out on the lake that I like to ice fish all summer long, marking points where I think would be good ice fishing spots. And that's, kind of what I'm getting at is like you can spend the whole year doing all these different things and preparing at the end of one season into another to get ready. Like right now we're in December, so January is coming up, February is coming up real quick. Before we know it, Christmas will be here like that, and holidays will be over, and the new year, and we'll be back to freezing in our houses and saying there's nothing to do. And ice fishing keeps me motivated. I was out here in the living room building tip-ups because it's just like another thing to do. I really like to do stuff like that. It keeps me out of trouble. Because if I'm, what they say, idle hands, the whole cliche, it's true. If I'm not doing something, I'm usually out getting into trouble. So it keeps me something to do at night at the end of the day after work is over and I'm done recording podcasts and editing all this stuff. Go out in the living room, play around with old wood I have in the garage, building tip-ups. And then ice fishing, me and my friend Derek, we go pretty hard on ice fishing. We'll be out there. And again, not that great at it. I'm not an awesome ice fisherman. Maybe someday. I'm just relatively new to all this stuff compared to a lot of people. But, we have special places up in Michigan. We like to go for pike and stuff like that. The goal this year is to just land some big pike. And I do want to try them. A lot of people throw them back. So if we catch some legal ones this year, we do want to eat them. That's like the whole point for me. And I know there's a lot of argument between catch and release and keep and whatever, but I'm out here for food. So that's what I'm doing. And, obviously bluegill and stuff are awesome to eat and catch. So, stuff like that is always an option. And then it just starts the whole cycle back over. So like I'm always finding something to do, and I get really confused when people say like, oh, I'm so bored. There's nothing going on. There's nothing to do. And it's like, if you break out of the cycle of thinking the only thing there are to do is to like go shopping at the mall or whatever, or even outside of hunting, like you can go winter hiking, you can go snowshoeing, the park that you hike at every day is going to be drastically different through every season, or the river that you like to go to is going to be drastically different in every season. So it doesn't all have to be consumptive, but there's always something to do, in my opinion. You can sight in your gun, you can put a new rest on your bow and sight your bow in and get a new whatever. It doesn't matter. Just like there's always something to do to not be bored. And keeping yourself motivated, that's a whole different ball game. I know it's kind of like a cliche thing nowadays, like, oh, I work out so I can be the best hunter. And that's true. That is why I work out, is because I know that a lot of the stuff that I enjoy, fishing, kayak fishing, I don't have the money to buy a sweet bass boat, or something like that, or a big, steel boat or something, aluminum boat. I just don't have that kind of money right now to spend on that kind of exorbitant stuff. So like, I'm staying in shape because I need to be able to kayak. If I want to kayak out 3 miles down a river and fish for a few hours and come back, I need to be able to be in shape to do that. I know it gets hard for me around hunting season, specifically like deer hunting season, because I'm just spending so much time in the woods that my physical activities, or like gym stuff and running stuff, kind of falter. I mean, I still go when I have the opportunity on a day that I'm not hunting or something. It's just really hard to spend, 6 hours a day in the woods, plus do my job, plus go to the gym, plus do that. But again, it's all cyclical. Once summer comes around, I can get up. Fishing is not always that intensive, because once you're on a lake or something, you kayak, you're not going super far. And then you're just anchoring and hanging around for a while, moving occasionally or drifting. So I can spend a lot more time trying to stay in shape. Obviously, I'm not like the most in shape of any person on earth. I just know that once it's time to drag that deer out of the woods, I don't want to be out there like, this is going to take 3 hours. I want to be able to just be like, okay, I'm doing this. It's going to be done quickly, or having to track a deer for hours, try and stay in shape. So there's like always something to do in this cyclical pattern to keep, there's always something to do. That's what I'm getting at. Like, it's not, you just have to have an open mind and be willing to try things that are out of your comfort zone, and not listen to everybody when they're saying like, oh, you'll never be able to do this. It's too much. In the car yesterday, one of the guys was telling me how he did a self-guided antelope hunt out west and a self-guided elk hunt. And it just takes a lot of time and effort, but he's able to do these things and afford to do these things. All you hear about online is, oh yeah, this out-of-state elk hunt in the western states, it's cost $20,000 and you might not even get an elk. And it's like, when you hear stuff like that, you're like, no way, never an option. So yeah, that's how I stay busy. And another thing that I was kind of talk about is how to pull your weight a little bit. Because like when you're new, like me, I have this guilt, like I'm holding these other people back because they know what they're doing. So we're going deer hunting, or I'm going duck hunting for the first time. Kind of got to be a little more willing to do the stuff that nobody wants to do. Like the first time I went duck hunting with a guy around here, Like, all right, who's going to walk out into the marsh and get the ducks? I'll do it because I'm like, feel like a bird, like I'm the burden of the group. Like I'm the new guy. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to go out there. So you got to kind of like put in that work. And then like that opens up more opportunities for you to make these people that you don't know that well be willing to invite you again. They're not going to want to invite somebody back who's like, oh, that guy didn't do shit. He's lazy. He didn't help with anything. Like, be the first one out of the boat to jump in the cold water when we're stuck. You be the guy that jumps out and is like, I'll pull the boat. You guys do what you need to do. I'll pull the boat. You know, it sucks. And all of this, you know, this all comes together in an ethic, you know, trying to stay in the best shape possible, being the hardest worker in the room, being willing to eat the shit. And, you know, then when the time comes around, it's your turn to help someone new. That's really important too, because then you have to also be willing to be patient with them and teach them stuff and remember that you also sucked for a very long time and all the stuff that you learned was helped by other people. So there's like all that part to that. And then the final thing is, which I'm the worst at, is balancing all of this with like your work, life, hunting, fishing, obsession, finances. It's just, that's the most complicated part for me because if left to my own devices, from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed, I will be outdoors. And it's hard to manage that when you're kind of like an obsessive person, I guess. I'd probably borderline obsessive. Like when I want to do something, that's like all that I can focus on. Like I need to go out and hunt. And it actually is painful for me, like mentally, to like take a day off from hunting. Like it's just like, I need to be out there. It's X time, whatever sunset is. I have this much time left in the day. I want to hunt for at least 3 hours minimum. So I got to be out there by this time. It means I got to finish everything by this time. I got to get up by this time. I have to do this by this time. And it becomes this like vicious cycle of like obsessive being out there. And it's do the same thing with ice fishing. It's whatever. So like, the harder part for me is having the ability to pull back and be like, no, you have also like responsibilities as a human being to like be with your family and take care of the house and all this shit, get your work done, which, you know, that takes priority because if I get fired, I won't be able to do any of this stuff. So, you know, that's kind of my thoughts for the day on this episode. But I think that at the end of the day, it's really important to just like keep yourself going. And I always talk about being a generalist all the time. And, you know, it's really, I think it makes you a well-rounded human being and a well-rounded outdoorsman or outdoorswoman specifically, because you have the ability to go anywhere and do anything. Like I've never elk hunted, but if I ever had the opportunity to elk hunt or go with someone and help them pack out whatever elk hunting, I would have a base level of knowledge to understand how that I could at least not screw it up for them. And, you know, I was talking to the guy in the car ride home. I was like, if you need somebody ever to go with you, like I don't need to hunt, I don't need to whatever, I will go with you and help you carry this stuff out, butcher the animal, whatever, get dirty, be a pack mule. Like that's how you get involved and that's how you learn, is by watching other people. Do I want to be the guy out there with the gun shooting the elk and getting all the glory and the food and all this shit? Hell yeah. But I'm not going to probably do that on my own. Like unless somebody is like, hey, I'm going to show you the ropes, it's going to be very difficult for me to find the motivation because the West is very far away from where I live. It's a 2-day drive to get to most of these places, and it's like a lot of time and effort and money. And, you know, maybe that's just an excuse, but you need to be willing to eat some shit, get involved, and help out. And, you know, that's back to the point, getting involved in these conservation groups helps open up these opportunities. And I hope that you do get involved. I hope that you learn something from this episode. My last solo episode, I don't think I got my point across the way I wanted to. So if it sounded a little whiny, I apologize about that. It was a lot of traveling going on, very tired, and I needed an episode to come out. And I didn't really think it through that well when I put it out. So it is what it is. It's already been released. I'm kind of once something's done, it's done do what you can, move on kind of person. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. I will do this for 5 hours if I let myself. So thanks for listening, everybody. I do have more guests coming. It's just been a very busy hunting season, and I do want to talk more on things that I know about, which, my friends tell me my strongest suit is being able to make anything doable and fun, like wherever you're at, learning how to work with what you have. They say that's always my strongest point. So they've been encouraging me to do more episodes like this. I'm not normally the most comfortable doing solo episodes, but that probably means I just need to work on them more. So thanks everybody for listening. I hope you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I know I said that for every episode for a year, but I'm working on not so much fast content. I'm really over fast content. Making things just for the sake of making them. I really want to make more impactful stuff. And it's hard because it's slow. Can't put out, a video every day or week or whatever when I'm working on more longer form, impactful content, videos, documentary style stuff. So thank you if you have subscribed to those channels. And I appreciate everybody who listens to this episode. Be back next week. Thanks for listening. I'm going to shut up now.